Welcome to the 2015 Special Olympics Winter Games volunteer training video. The purpose of this training video is to provide you with the fundamental information you will need in order for you to properly fulfill your requirements as a volunteer at the 2015 Special Olympics Provincial Winter Games. The following message is from North Bay's Chief of Police, Paul Cook.
Hi, I'm Paul Cook, Chief of Police of the North Bay Police Service. On behalf of the Games Organizing Committee, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very heartfelt thank you to all of those who have registered to volunteer for the upcoming Special Olympics Ontario 2015 Provincial Winter Games. The Games will be held right here in North Bay from January 29th to February 1st, 2015. We have a very strong Special Olympics program in North Bay, and many of these local athletes will compete against approximately 350 others from across the province during the Winter Games. Many athletes will use these games as a stepping stone on the road to the National Winter Games in 2016 and ultimately the World Games in 2017. It would not be possible to host an event of this magnitude without the hard work and dedication of hundreds of volunteers. Please be assured that your willingness to be involved in bringing the Games to North Bay does not go unnoticed. I want to wish you all the best as you begin this process, and once again, thank you for your willingness to serve our great community.
In this training course, you will learn the basic information pertaining to Special Olympics Ontario, how to appropriately interact with athletes, and what your expectations are as a volunteer for the upcoming Winter Games.
After years of training, Team Canada joined 2,500 athletes from as many as 100 countries in Idaho to compete in the 2009 Special Olympics World Winter Games. It was a far cry from 1968, when the first World Games were held at Soldier Field in Chicago. Only two countries, Canada and the United States, competed. It was Canada's Dr. Frank Hayden who introduced the concept of Special Olympics, but it was Harry Red Foster who brought the movement to Canada in 1969. Dr. Hayden believed that physical activity would benefit those with an intellectual disability. He shared his ideas with Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and the movement was born.
Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt.
There was obviously some risk, and I was well aware of it. I was the only one in Chicago or anywhere else that knew where that was going. Everybody thought it was a one-off, you know, that it was a nice games and a fun thing to do. And, but for me, I always planned for me, this is just the start.
So I think it was really important that they were successful because people immediately said, we've got to have this everywhere. And you know, you can't deny that it wouldn't have gone around the world the way it went around the world without the Kennedy Foundation and the Kennedy name and the influence behind it.
Really what we're providing to our athletes across the world, not just Canada, is an opportunity to live a normal life, to compete, to enjoy the thrill of competition, you know, taking part in something that needs all of the power that you have in your body.
If you said something that surprised me, that maybe surprised me more than anything at those World Games, I'll tell you, because incredible that a young mother like that would walk into a public place and announce, look, I've got a Down syndrome child, and I'm so proud I'm going to be putting him in the Special Olympics eventually. Boy, that just didn't happen. It was the expression of what we put it all together for in the first place, that people didn't feel guilt or shame or anything. In fact, they went out and proudly announced that that was it. It isn't to make and accentuate the difference, it's to integrate and make them part of family and then part of the community, part of society.
Up to 3% of the world's population have intellectual disabilities, making it the largest disability population in the world. To be eligible to take part in these games, an individual must have an intellectual disability, cognitive delay, or developmental disability. Special Olympics encourages physical fitness and opportunities to develop skills and friendships with other athletes and families. Special Olympics Ontario is a worldwide charitable organization dedicated to enriching the lives of Ontarians with an intellectual disability through sport. It is a non-profit organization that provides sport training and competition opportunities to over 19,000 athletes of all ages and abilities. Special Olympics Ontario provides all athletes with opportunities to train, compete, and reach their full athletic and social potential while being accessible and open to all individuals with an intellectual disability, regardless of their ability. In this year's upcoming 2015 Winter Games, North Bay will be the host city of over 400 athletes and coaches and numerous families and supporters. The 300 Special Olympics athletes will be participating in 6 different sports held in North Bay for the Special Olympics 2015 Winter Games. The 6 sports are figure skating, speed skating, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, alpine skiing, and curling. The sports will take place at various venues and at various times throughout the Games. The figure skating competitions will occur at Memorial Gardens. Figure skating athletes will be housed at the Comfort Inn Airport on O'Brien Street. The speed skating competitions will occur at West Ferris Arena. Speed skating athletes will be housed at the Clarion Resort. The snowshoeing competition will occur at the Clarion Resort. Snowshoeing athletes will be housed at the Clarion Resort. Cross-country or Nordic skiing competition will occur at the North Bay Nordic Ski Club. Cross-country athletes will be housed at the Clarion Resort. Downhill or alpine skiing competition will occur at Laurentian Ski Hill. Downhill ski athletes will be housed at the Comfort Inn, Lakeshore, located on Lakeshore Drive. Curling competition will occur at the North Bay Granite Club. Curling athletes will be housed at the Holiday Inn Express. Opening and closing ceremonies will take place at Nipissing University. Special Olympics focuses on people's gifts and accomplishments rather than negative attitudes and stereotypes. As language has evolved, Special Olympics has updated its official terminology to use standard terminology that is more acceptable to our athletes. It is important that, as a volunteer, you speak to the Special Olympics athletes like you would speak to anyone else. Let the athlete know that you're interested in what he or she is saying by making eye contact and using a conversational tone. Do not assume that the person understands what you're saying to them without verifying through questions or by asking them to repeat the message back to you. Athletes of all ages competing in the Special Olympics 2015 Winter Games. This will influence the way you relate to an athlete and the language you use. Always refer to the participants as athletes rather than kids. Enjoy your interaction with the athletes as you go about your duties, but do not hesitate to ask coaches or other volunteers for help if you have any concerns. You will find that the athletes you will meet are very friendly and will appreciate your assistance. Along with the fun, we encourage behavior that is appropriate to athletic events. If you have any questions, just remember that any behavior that is inappropriate for people without an intellectual disability is also inappropriate for people with intellectual disabilities. Enjoy the friendly interactions that are part of the Special Olympics experience, but do not hesitate to establish limits. As a volunteer, You will want to do everything you can to respect the dignity of the athletes you will be working with. You may find that the Special Olympics athletes like to give and receive hugs. Please do not feel obligated to give and receive hugs. It is important for the athletes to understand and respect the personal space of other people. A high five is an effective communication method to provide a congratulatory acknowledgement to an athlete. Words can open doors to enable persons with disabilities to lead fuller and more independent lives. Words can also create barriers or stereotypes that are demeaning to persons with disabilities and rob them of their individuality. The following are language do's and don'ts when communicating with Special Olympics athletes. Do use the preferred language, a person with an intellectual disability. John Public, who has an intellectual disability, this is what we call people first language. Do not use the word kids when referring to Special Olympics athletes. Do not use the adjective unfortunate when describing persons with an intellectual disability. Disabling conditions do not have to be life-defining in a negative way. Don't sensationalize the accomplishments of people with a disability. While these accomplishments should be recognized and applauded, excessive emphasis on achievement can have a negative impact on the individual.
It's not acceptable to call me a nigger.
It's not acceptable to call me a spick.
To call me a chink.
To call me a fag.
It's not acceptable to call me a kike.
And it's not acceptable to call me a retard or call yourself or your friends retarded when they do something foolish.
The R word is the same as every minority slur. Treat it that way and don't use it.
Spread the word to end the word.
As a volunteer, you will be making a contribution at the highest level, which is making a difference in someone else's life. You will learn new skills, meet new people, and share projects and talents. Police Chief Paul Cook serves as both the Games Chairperson and the Head of Fundraising and Sponsorship for the Provincial Winter Games in 2015. In that role, he is responsible for the overall guidance and direction of the Games, fundraising and sponsorship, corporate sponsorship, adopt an athlete, and community fundraising events. The Games office staff consist of staff based in North Bay and at the Special Olympics Ontario office, and are responsible for overseeing all aspects of the Games, working with division directors, leading and coordinating GOC meetings, and ensuring that the planning and delivery of the Games is progressing on time and on budget. The Games staff include Constable Merv Shantz, who is the Games manager for the 2015 Winter Games; Julie Prokopchuk-Bratton, who is the manager of major games for Special Olympics Ontario; and Melissa Carman, who is the Games coordinator for the 2015 Winter Games. These staff are supported by division leads, who are responsible for various areas in the delivery of the Games. Jake LaCourse is the head of operations, and as such is responsible for accommodations, food services, facilities and equipment, transportation, and accreditations. Dave Saad and Bill Jacko are the sports services leads for the Games. They are responsible for all of the technical and logistical considerations pertaining to sport and competition at the Games. This includes all sport venues and all sport technical supports. Coordination of competition in the 6 Special Olympic sports represented at the Games. Staff Sergeant Chris Summersby is the head of volunteer services. He's responsible for volunteer recruiting, orientation and training, registration, placement, and recognition. In her role as the head of hospitality, Jamie Burke will be responsible for family and spectators, hospitality and entertainment, accommodations, honored guests and VIPs, and team ambassadors. Support services during the games include medical services, on-site safety and security, communications, games photography and videography. This team is led by Sergeant Paul Trahan. Promotions and marketing is led by Bill Hegborg, who's responsible for branding and signage, media and public relations, games program, games website, social media, and IT. Opening and closing ceremonies and medal presentations are easily some of the most memorable parts of the games experience. The team responsible for this critical portfolio is led by Katie Laporte. Community outreach is responsible for events leading up to the games, including athlete ambassadors and athlete leadership training, healthy athletes, community and school presentations. This team is led by Kenzie Butkovich. As the head of finance, Bart Hutel is responsible for managing the game's budget, financial planning, and performing audits. The local Special Olympics Ontario community in North Bay has a long history of active involvement. Rob Saunders and Shannon Johnson are the liaison with the local Special Olympics movement in North Bay and also provide critical professional and technical advice to the GMT and support and communication with local athletes and volunteers. Finally, Alyn Major is the torch run lead for the games. She's responsible for the linkage between the games and the law enforcement torch run, as well as the planning of various torch run fundraisers leading up to the games and the torch run final leg at the games. The law enforcement torch run is the most important supporter of the Special Olympics movement in Ontario. Through the LETR, members in law enforcement provide both grassroots and provincial support for Special Olympics programs throughout the province. The torch run is not a single event. Leading up to the games in North Bay, the LETR will be engaging in a number of fundraising activities, including the Polar Plunge, Adopt an Athlete, the North Bay Torch Ride, and the Torch Run.
More than a flame, it's a beacon of hope. The Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics is the movement's largest grassroots fundraiser and is an important element in raising public awareness. The Torch Run is an actual event. Officers, members of the public, run through communities, carrying the flame of hope to the opening ceremonies of local Special Olympics competitions and major games. But the Torch Run is more than just a run. It encompasses a variety of fundraising efforts, including T-shirt and merchandise sales, polar bear plunges, tip-a-cop sessions, and mall tolls, as well as events that provide local, provincial, and national appeal. It is key in spreading the word about Special Olympics. In Ontario, the Torch Run has become a signature partner in all aspects of development, from individual agencies hosting provincial games to officers and agencies creating events and partnerships that have been significant in expanding the funding movement at every level. Through Torch Run activities, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police has designated Special Olympics as their charity of choice. At the core of this amazing partnership is the Special Olympics message, the undeniable desire to create equality and opportunity for people living with an intellectual disability. Sport is an essential instrument in doing this because it increases physical aptitude, cognitive capacity, self-confidence, and most importantly, self-expression.
I just want to say that Special Olympics has helped me become something I've always wanted to be, a good athlete. and I'm just hoping I'm setting a good example for all soon-to-be athletes out there.
And in first place, Mark Botticella, 7:55.
Did you ever think 15 years ago you'd be standing here watching your son compete and represent his province?
Absolutely not. No, this is...
The law enforcement torch run transforms and unites communities by inspiring people to open their minds through the acceptance and inclusion of persons living with intellectual disabilities. It helps recognize and respect the similarities we all share, while celebrating the differences among us. For athletes and officers alike, the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics is a story of success, love, respect, and commitment.
There are over 500 volunteer jobs that need to be covered. If you did not receive your first choice, our hope is that you will do the job you're given to the best of your ability. As a volunteer, you may be keeping time or helping to marshal athletes, assisting with logistics, supporting spectators and families, or providing directions and support. There are numerous volunteer opportunities within the Games, and role-specific training will be provided closer to the Games. As volunteers, it is expected that you arrive 15 minutes before your shift. Check into the volunteer registration area. Be prepared to offer excellent customer service to athletes, coaches, and spectators. Volunteers are required to be dressed appropriately and prepared for the job you've been assigned to. Come with your volunteer shirt and accreditation badge. Please remember that all media inquiries should be directed to a GMT member. During the Games, you will be able to identify who is a volunteer by the color of shirt they are wearing. Those in the orange shirts are medical volunteers. Those in green take care of security. Those navy blue are GMT members, and general volunteers are in blue. Medical volunteers will be wearing orange shirts and include volunteers who have skills specific to provide medical assistance to athletes, coaches, and spectators. Dressed in green shirts, security volunteers are responsible for security of the athletes, coaches, and spectators. They will be stationed throughout all venues. General volunteers will be identified with blue shirts and will be responsible for the largest number of Games roles, ranging from spectator and fan support, directions, registration and athlete support, marshalling, and timekeeping. Anyone wearing a blue golf shirt are members of the Games management team and are responsible for the leadership and organization of the Games. Everyone attending the Games will be given an accreditation tag. The tag must be worn at all times, whether you're an athlete, coach, spectator, sports official, volunteer, or GMT member. Emergency action plans will be different depending on which job you're assigned to. They will be discussed and taught at your volunteer orientation night in January 2015. The Code of Behavior applies to all athletes, coaches, and volunteers participating in programs and events sanctioned by Special Olympics Ontario. The Code of Conduct is designed to assist each volunteer and coach in abiding by the mission and philosophy of Special Olympics Ontario. What's next? After completing this training, you will be required to make sure that you complete the following steps. 1. If you have not already done so, please complete your police records check and provide it to the Games office. 2. Please make sure to attend one of the in-person training sessions offered at Whitfield Secondary School. These sessions will occur on January 8th from 7 till 9 p.m., January 11th from 3 till 5 p.m., and January 13th from 7 till 9 p.m. Attendance at one of the in-person sessions is mandatory for all volunteers. You may register for the in-person orientation session online. After completing your training for the Games, you may be asking how you can find out more about Special Olympics or become more involved in the movement. Here are a few helpful suggestions. For more information about the Special Olympics movement in Ontario, visit us at the Special Olympics Ontario Provincial website at www.specialolympicsontario.com. For more information about the Games in North Bay, including schedule, results, media, and live updates, visit the North Bay Games website at www.specialolympics2015games.com. Follow us on social media and get the most up-to-date information while participating in our social media activities online. Special Olympics Ontario and the Games will be active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Finally, after completing this course, you may decide that you'd like some more information or training on either Special Olympics or working with our athletes. We would encourage you to consider taking the full Special Olympics Ontario General Orientation. While this course is not required for volunteering at provincial games, it does provide a comprehensive and detailed introduction to Special Olympics and working with our athletes, as well as some background on further opportunities, risk management, and roles within our provincial chapter. Further learning courses for Special Olympics can be found on the online learning portal at solearn.ca or by clicking on the links after completing this course. Finally, we hope that your experience with us will be a positive one, and if so, that you might consider becoming a volunteer for Special Olympics locally in the future. This role could be anything from an event volunteer to coaching a sports team. Joining is easy. Simply visit our volunteer recruitment site at volunteer.specialolympicsontario.ca to fill out a form and find out more. Thank you for your time and interest in the Special Olympics Ontario Winter Games. We hope you found this course useful in providing you with a general introduction to the Games and Special Olympics. To complete your orientation, please complete the final quiz activity after this presentation.